Hi guys, I hope you're all doing well. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, depending on where you are. But I know for a lot of you, it's good morning. And I know there's a lot of people having coffee in New Zealand, Australia, the UK, in Texas, in Oklahoma, all over Canada. If I forgot someone, please don't be mad at you. I just want to say hello to all of you. I really enjoy that you're having your coffee time with my videos. The coffee time in the morning, that's my favorite time. I just want to sit at the coffee table, just have my coffee, look at my computer and just say nothing and don't talk and just, I always say I want to sit there and look stupid, just look and stare at my computer. So a lot of news that I find interesting are coming from the Reykjavik Peninsula today, and I think this is important news for the little town of Grindavik, and there hasn't been an official statement what that could mean for Grindavik yet, and I'm a little bit surprised about that. But you know, I said it in my video yesterday, could this be good for Grindavik? Could this mean that maybe everything will not last for 10 years or longer? Could it be that maybe already this year it could be over for Grindavik and it could calm down? And so if that's the case, we will look into this and I'll tell you what is happening that gets me to consider this possibility. Because then, you know, if this stuff slows down and leaves Grindavik alone, so to speak, would they have the chance to look at the cracks more intensely and maybe really fill them to an extent that it is safe again, if there will not be any more earthquakes, swarm or eruptions or something in the near future? Do people even have to sell their homes, or can they come back? That's the big question that is raised in my head, guys. And we just know just 2 to 3 days ago, they opened that website where people can register to have their homes bought out. There have been like 500 damage reports of residential homes that have been reported to the natural disaster insurance asking for payout. So interesting stuff, guys, but let's start. What's the earthquake situation right now on the Reykjavik Peninsula? Because we know the magma chamber underneath Swartsengi, the Blue Lagoon and the power plant, that is still filling up and the land is still rising there. So today already, March 15th, there are already 70 earthquakes that they have recorded in the Sutnuka crater series today. If you look at the Sutnuka crater series, is where they most likely will expect the eruption, and where we had the December eruption and the February eruption. You can see the lava flows there. So they say 70 earthquakes is similar to the daily frequency of earthquakes in the area that we've seen this week. Remember, just a few days ago, they couldn't measure many earthquakes because they said measuring instruments have been influenced by the bad weather, so they couldn't measure the smaller ones. So they're saying that the earthquakes this week, they have ranged from 600 to 100 per day. So they're saying it's nothing unusual about the fact that 70 earthquakes were recorded today. The largest earthquake that they did record today had magnitude 1 so far. So they are also stating, the Icelandic MET Office is saying that the magma accumulation underneath Swartsengi has a similar rate than before that little tiny magma intrusion that has happened on March 2nd. So on March 2nd, about 1.3 million cubic meters were flowing out of the magma chamber towards the Sutnuka crater series, but then that magma run did stop. So they are saying that the latest deformation measurements and satellite data that they have is that the magma accumulation underneath Swartsengi that comes with this land rise is at the same pace, is the land's rising is at the same speed, the magma chamber is filling at the same speed that it was before that March 2nd intrusion. So that hasn't changed anything in the system. So, but of course, since that March 2nd intrusion, they are a little bit more uncertain about what is going on there and what is happening. Maybe you remember right after March 2nd, they were expecting another intrusion or eruption basically right away because not much magma was flowing out of the chamber. And with the rate that it was rising again, they thought within the next few days, they even thought like 3 days later, something like this. But you know, now we have March 15th, so almost 2 weeks later, and still nothing. So of course everyone starts wondering what is going on there. So it is really weird. They're always saying, okay, the amount of magma in the magma chamber underneath Swartsengi needs to reach a size of roughly about 10 million cubic meters in this magma chamber in order to be able to have enough pressure to send the magma out on its way to cause an intrusion or an eruption. That's what it has been in the past month since basically November 10th. Usually, you know, since we have seen 2 intrusions and 3 eruptions, they were quite able to give a calculation based on the data that they could measure during these events. They could find sort of a pattern, but now it's a little bit different. It's not happening, right? Nothing has happened yet. Basically, the news are every day, intrusion, eruption is imminent. I'd be surprised if it didn't happen in the next 3 days. That's what Thorwaldsen said, like, more than a week ago, and now nothing has happened still. So what is going on? So now they're guessing that the magma is taking another route. If you have seen my video that I released yesterday, they're thinking that the magma is moving west. So the land rise is moving west from there. And they're speculating, is it moving to Antwerp? So could that be good? Is it leaving the Grindavik area alone? From Antwerp, the lava could flow maybe towards the sea and not really too much into Grindavik like it did from the Sutnuka crater series, and especially if there was an eruption that's more south to Grindavik. We know it did flow into Grindavik, and there was always the eruption that there was always a possibility that it could erupt inside Grindavik as well with little notice. So now they're thinking maybe that magma is looking for a different route because it's always looking for the way of least resistance. And the old tunnels, the old pathways that it has taken underground to get out of the magma chamber into the Sutnuka crater series might be clogged. So the magma might have clogged it with its own stuff, right? It might have magma that has hardened and has closed these fissures and tunnels. So now it's looking for other ways. And is it now going westwards, and will it cause an Antwerp eruption? We have heard yesterday, if that is happening, it probably will be a longer eruption and a more powerful eruption. So they're thinking right now, since we have seen the March 2nd intrusion, that since then, roughly 4 million cubic meters of magma have accumulated in the magma chamber again. But there has been no magma flow, right? Nothing is happening. So that could indicate that there may have been some change in that magma channel where it's usually going, and it's not searching for the Sutnuka crater series anymore. So because of that, they're stating that there is now more uncertainty than before about the amount of magma that must accumulate under Swartsengi in order to be able to trigger a new magma flow or even an eruption. And because of that, there is, of course, also more uncertainty now than before about the timing of the next magma flow and a possible eruption. So they are still saying that they still think the greatest probability that the magma will flow into the Sutnuka crater series still exist, and then we could see a possible eruption in the area between Stora Skogfell and Hagafell. So this is a little bit of controversial information what they're saying. So on the one hand they say, well, it could be clogged, it can't find their way, it might be moving westwards, but they're still saying, well, the greatest chance that we think is that it's going into the Sutnuka crater series. So it's a little bit, what is it? But I think nobody knows right now. It's still a little bit of a gamble to find out what is happening. And the uncertainty, in my opinion, is still not really great, because if you cannot be 100% sure where the pressure is building up, it could happen anywhere, right? They have said before the last event, they said there is a risk for an eruption inside of Grindavik. There is also a low risk that they're thinking, but it could also come up directly underneath Swartsengi and my friend the Blue Lagoon. But they are thinking this would give them a few hours of warning time. But speaking of that, I think something very interesting that we should look at together, guys, is what has happened before November 10th, because there was something very interesting. So on October 24th, there was an earthquake swarm, and you see this on the map here, that started on October 24th. And between October 24th and 26th, there have been over 4,000 earthquakes that have been recorded on the Reykjanes Peninsula, and 14 of those have exceeded the magnitude of M3. And of course, most of the activity has occurred between Stora Skogfell and this is interesting because now we're thinking maybe it's going into that area, northeast of Eldverp. So they said at that time that the seismicity is located between 2 and 6 kilometers in depth. So this is, if you look at that map, how many earthquakes there are. So it has already been going west there. So there could be something going on. So maybe it is finding its way back there, because the earthquakes have been quite spread out a little bit, right? So I find it interesting to look at that map in hindsight and to look at that cluster of earthquakes and where they have been located, since we now know what happened after that. And after November 10th, everything has basically been concentrated on that 15-kilometer long magma intrusion that has formed on November 10th. And we have seen a lot of earthquakes along that magma tunnel. But as I said, let me know what you think. If you look at that map with the earthquakes, kind of gives you a hint, so it could go in that direction as well. And that is basically the speculation that they're doing. But there's also something else that I find interesting, and that's what I mentioned at the beginning, and that's an important information for Grindavik and the residents, the homeowners of Grindavik and the businesses of Grindavik. So they say that maybe the rumbling could end late this summer. So before we always thought, okay, Grindavik is completely lost. This will last for 10 years, maybe even longer, for decades, for centuries. And the repeating thing like every 3 to 4 weeks, eruption or intrusion, seismic swarm, land rise, this could go on for quite a while. That's why Grindavik is lost, because how can you repair all these cracks when basically all 3 to 4 weeks, the cracks getting longer, widening, new sinkholes, new damage to the homes? Doesn't make sense, right? You can't evacuate all the residents every 3 to 4 weeks. It's not sustainable. But what if it did really slow down? does that change anything for the current situation of the town? I don't know. When I heard the headlines, I'm like, is this good? This would give me hope. I don't know, guys. What are you thinking? So, two scientists have made a prediction. So on the one hand, the volcanologist Haraldur Sigurdsson and a geophysicist Grimur Björnsson, they are predicting, guys, and I find this fascinating, that the inflow of magma underneath the Swartsengi area, Blue Lagoon, and the power plant will end in late summer, and with it all the movements near Grindavik. And you have to really let that sink in, because that comes kind of a surprise. So the two scientists point out that the rate of the magma accumulation under Swartsengi is in fact slowing down. So that is a little bit different from what we've heard from the Icelandic Meteorological Office. They have been saying the magma that is coming into the magma chamber every day is roughly 500,000 cubic meters per day. And it hasn't matched, because sometimes they said, well, this is still the rate, but we're still at around 10 million cubic meters in the magma chamber. But had the rate really been like that, we should be way over 13 million cubic meters right now. So those two scientists think this could end. And I really, guys, wouldn't that be great? I mean, I really hope for them that they're right? So because they're saying they have clear data that the average magma flow into the magma chamber underneath Swartsengi over time recently has almost been cut in half since the November 10th magma intrusion. So they're saying less magma is coming back up into the magma chamber. So that indeed could indicate an end. Because before, we have always heard the magma chamber is filling up from a deeper magma reservoir at the same rate. Land rises strong, keeps after an intrusion or eruption, land keeps rising right away at the same rate, right? So that's why we all thought, well, that thing is strong and seems to have a lot of resources. But if it is indeed slowing down and less is coming, could this be ending, right? So I find this would be a game changer, in my opinion. So those two guys, they think that now they have enough scientific data collected about that volcanic system that it would allow them now to give a better estimate when the magma movements and the eruptions will indeed end in the Sutnuka crater series. So their prediction that it would end for Grindavik is based on the average inflow of magma in the magma tunnel, and they are assuming a linear behavior. That means with a straight line, the magma that is still coming back is decreasing, and a straight line always means very predictable, right? So very interesting, guys. Of course, I will keep you updated on that. And now a quick update about the residents of Grindavik. You can believe that since the magma has intruded underneath Grindavik and Grindavik has been evacuated for the first time on November 10th, the postal services have stopped. So the postman didn't come anymore and put actual mail into the homes. And you'd think, well, okay, the residents were picking it up right at the post office, but it seems that the mail is piling up. So as a result of the disasters that have happened in the recent month, the mail of residents and businesses of Grindavik is accumulating. So all shipments that are supposed to go to residents of Grindavik who still have a registered address in Grindavik, go to the post office in Reykjavik, and it is piling up there. So that is interesting. They have now decided to call the people and let them know. So, hey guys, come by. We have a lot of mail for you. So interesting. They will forward the mail once they have a new address. But you know, these are the little things that come with events like this that you wouldn't think of right away, right? But yeah, that just on a side note, guys. So I hope you're all doing great, guys. Thanks for supporting my channel the way you do. And check out the video in the end screen. And I hope to see you here very, very soon with another update, guys. Stay warm, stay dry, stay safe. And I'm out of here. Bye-bye.